Hello, everyone. I'm here with Annapurna, who is a Hindu. She is a yoga teacher. She knows some Vedanta, some Tantra. She knows things about Murti Puja, which is not idol worship, but that's what Westerners would call it when you see Hindus bowing before statues, what appears to be idol worship, which I've been trying to say is not exactly idol worship. Hindus don't usually like when it's called idol worship. They prefer to call it Murti Puja. Murti means the statue itself. Puja is like a ceremony or something like that. Um, I want to start this out. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself um, and your Hindu practice and things like that?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me, Vincent. I appreciate this opportunity to be here and to share a nuanced message about Hinduism. So, I'm born and raised in India. I am an immigrant here in the United States, and I'm a yoga teacher, and I did teach quite extensively in the let's just call it New Age type of communities in Asia, Latin America, some here in the U.S. Yeah, and I'm also familiar with the Hindutva movement. That's pretty strong in my country and my family too, to be very honest. Yeah, and my channel on YouTube is Annapurna. And I do my best to share indigenous Vedic wisdom on there directly translating from Sanskrit to give the most nuanced perspective and avoid these kind of let's just say like a perversion subversions of Hinduism, or what has been now called as Hinduism. It would be the correct way would be Sanatan Dharma, meaning Sanatan meaning universal. It's not even universe, it's all encompassing, really. That's what Sanatan means. And Dharma meaning responsibility, truth, divine duty here on earth. So basically, Hinduism is telling us what our duty is on earth. But yeah, that's a little background, Vincent.
Okay. You can write Sanskrit. Read
Yeah,
it.
yes, sir. That's right.
Okay. Okay, so let's what we wanted to talk about today is as you are aware and that you agree with, there is a form of Hindu Noahidism that's taking place. So I think what happened was Hindu has presented itself as such an ally to Judaism in their fight against Islam that the Jews were not necessarily planning on using Hinduism as a vehicle or as an ally for the Noahide laws. But in recent times, since the Hindus are excited about a Jewish cooperation with the Hindus, I think that Jews are now investing heavily in Noahidizing Hinduism. Now, there was uh, a proclamation sent out by the chief rabbi of Israel proclaiming Hindus to be monotheists and so therefore in line with the Noahide laws. And but today I wanted to talk to you because they're looking for reasons to make it monotheistic and they're looking for reasons
Right.
make it acceptable. And so they're branching into three different or four different regions. There's Vedanta, Tantra, Yoga, and Vaishnavism. Um, and what was I trying to say? That they are mixing this with Kabbalah. Now, there's the thing about Vedanta with non duality. Non duality is in Kabbalah. Um, can you start out, you know, um, our friend, what what is Vedanta? Can you sum up Vedanta?
Yeah, so Vedanta in and of itself is a tradition. So it's a tradition that comes from interpreting the Vedas, but it's not the only tradition. There are six orthodox traditions orthodox in the Hindu sense, meaning traditional or old. And Vedanta is just one. And Vedanta, Anta means end. So it's the end of the Vedas. They claim to be the conclusion or summary of the Vedas, which basically means that they interpret the Upanishads. Upanishads are summaries of the Vedas, the original four being Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. And these are where everything else comes from and takes its authority from in the Hindu literature. Puranas come much later. So the original Vedas are summarized in the Upanishads, and Vedanta is one of six older traditions that summarizes the summary of the Vedas, if you know what I mean. So, it's already, to me, it's already kind of a little bit lost. Um, to me, because it's you if you have to call yourself Vedanta, that is already there in the Upanishads are the Vedanta. So uh
Okay. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Okay, so we're specifically talking about Advaita Vedanta, which means
Mhm.
Advaita means not two, right?
Yes, non-dual, that's right.
Non-dual. Okay, is Vedanta monistic?
Mm. That's see, that's a hard one for me to answer. I guess so, because so Advaita Vedanta meaning non-dual, it's not two, it is one. God is one. So I guess so, but there's so much nuance, right? I can't just give you a blanket statement. So I'll just explain how I know it, and then we can come to a conclusion about whether it's monist or monotheist or polytheist or all of the above. But Brahman is the soul outside of the cycle of reincarnation, and that is what is assigned the title of supreme. So God and the soul outside of reincarnation are one and the same. So that means that every soul on the planet, every person, every life is being lived out by one soul, the supreme soul. So that's our true identity, and everything else is apparent but not really there. And this Brahman is never born, never dies. All of apparent reality seems to arise from Brahman, but it is not Brahman. And all right. So, and then once you have this Brahman and non-Brahman classification, the Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad goes ahead and says that what is not God is further subdivided into five layers. And as you go deeper into these five layers, you come close to God, you can come closer to Brahman, but Brahman is not within these five. So the five layers make up all of existential reality, essentially all of matter, energy, all of that. And that's given the female principle. So that is assigned a name called Prakriti, and mother of all life, mother of matter, cosmos. Uh, so mother of the material, which includes what's seen and unseen as well. So the chakras, prana shakti, meaning life force energy, all of that is encompassed under Prakriti. And just because she is quote unquote not real, she's still valued because she arises from what's real. So I don't know what within that what classification you would give Advaita Vedanta. To be honest, maybe it's monotheist or monist.
Okay. Um, can I ask you now?
Yeah,
Um, is Brahman outside space time?
it is. Yeah.
Okay, and then the five layers that are not Brahman but are maybe a lesser manifestation of it. This is inside space time.
Yes, that's right. Well, it constitutes also space and time itself is given a female uh, attribute. So even she even controls. space, and time.
Okay, but there's a difference between Brahman and the five layers. The five
Yes.
layers, like uh, uh, Brahman, and not in its full manifestation.
Right. They say not at all. Not at all. It's not Brahman at all. It's like maybe a drop of Brahman, like something very, very small.
Okay. Um, and the devas, like that are worshipped,
Mm.
um, they are different than Brahman too. Shiva, Vishnu, they're different.
Yes, that's right. They are not Brahman. The Trinity, Trimurti, and their consorts or wives are not Brahman, and they're aware. There's
Okay,
many times that they say they are also evolving.
okay. So the devas are in space time.
Yeah.
Okay. So any avatar, any deity, any visible. So avatars are not Brahman.
No, that's right. They're not.
And Brahman never enters a murti.
No. What enters is prana, life force energy. That would be in the second layer of these five layers. So it's the energy that enters the murti, not quote unquote God.
What is it? Prana?
Life force energy. So prana is seen as what animates the world, what animates the body. It's the energy that animates the body is called prana, not just the body but the world as well.
Okay.
I seen it referred to as chi, but I'm not so familiar with Chinese traditional medicine to call it that.
Okay. Um okay, so this non-duality. So you say it's is Vedanta definitely not hard polytheism?
Certainly, yeah, because the supreme is one, and then all these manifestations of the supreme are so many and varied. That's right. There's even like regional deities and stuff that I've never heard of, specific to certain villages that they have. So yeah, yeah. uh I guess, what do you call like many gods under one? I don't know what that is called.
Called soft polytheism, or Jews call it shatu.
Maybe. Okay. Okay. So now I see why they want to ally with Hinduism then, because it passes their standard, probably.
Well, okay, so there's can it be described as there's only one creator god but many non-creator deities?
Right. Right. Yeah, you can say that. But they are endowed with certain powers, like they can create certain forms of life and things like that. So they can't. It's not the creation on the level of Brahman, but maybe they can create like a plant or something, like, or a sentient being, or like more super, like superhuman, but not super god. So their powers are somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so Vedanta isn't Vedanta a way of thinking about reality?
I would agree. Yeah, it is.
Um, so give me 1 second. So there's a unity to reality.
Unity. Yeah. As in, what does that mean to you, unity, that concept? Oh,
Uh,
it's like, non-discordian. Is that what you're getting at?
maybe.
Yeah, certainly, Hinduism is not Discordian. I would agree with that. Or Vedanta, to be specific.
Non. What does Discordian mean? Discord, scattered.
Right, but I think it gives equal validity to good and evil. I believe like that the chaos has equal reign or equal power. And it's also like a mocking, like a way, like a mocking of other religions, or a religion created and based upon mocking.
Okay, we move on from Vedanta. Claire, are you here? Claire?
I think she put in the private chat that she's going to be listening only and she'll join in half an hour.
Okay. Um, Okay, because Claire, okay, so what I say, this is what I tell Claire. Um, okay, here's what's going on with the Noahide laws. Um, a Noahide is not supposed to add or subtract from Torah. Okay, you're like Christianity subtracted from Torah, Islam added to Torah. You're really not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to invent any new religion for yourself. The thing is that Vedanta is older, Hinduism is older than Torah, so it's neither an addition nor a subtraction. And what's happening is these Noahides are converting to Noahidism, but they miss festivals, they miss mysticism, they miss deep philosophical conversations, and the rabbis are not really supposed to invent new confangled philosophies for them to get involved in. But since Vedanta is older than Torah, it's kosher and they can use that. But Claire is always like, well, what is Vedanta? Because I tell her that it's very, Claire promotes secular Quranism, which is a legal system without any kind of theology or belief system or philosophy of life or anything like that. And I tell her that Vedanta is very um intriguing to people, but she always tells me, like, can you even explain Vedanta? Can you try to explain Vedanta in a way that somebody would want to be a Vedantist?
I think we just did. And there's a lot of people who follow Vedanta, and I'm not even, I'm not a follower of Vedanta, but I follow the original four Vedas and the Upanishads. So it would follow that many things in there are true, and I agree with. But it is a later movement. I'm not saying it's all perfect and everything, and it misses a lot of nuance of the original Vedas, which are heavily ritual focused, like rituals, nature, taking certain materials from nature so that you can connect with the divine, and things of that appeal more to me. And Vedanta is more detached and non-dual, but there are millions of people following Vedanta, to be honest.
There are
Hundreds of millions.
um so we said it's non-duality, but I feel as though this is, stuff that we kind of already knew. Um okay, so it's non-duality, it's a non.
And, intimately it's Hindu. You can't divorce it from Hinduism because it depends upon like certain knowledge. Maybe it's not so focused on the deities like the devas and all that, but it depends on certain knowledge of them to even recite like the mantra, the incantations in the Upanishads. So it is Hindu. So if you're a Hindu, Vedanta is easy for you, I guess. If you're a lawyer, it may not be. I For Hindus, it's at the time of its creation itself, it was a way to do something like what Claire is attempting to do, demystify, like a sort of a demystification of the existing Hindu practices at the time. That's why Vedanta even came about.
So it's a demystification of Samhita.
Yes, not just Samhita, but I would say all the four Vedas and the Upanishads, because Samhita is just one part of the Veda, right? There is mantra, there is a incantation, there is a certain like meditation. It's not just the philosophy. So I do think that Vedanta has they give breathing and meditation and stuff too. Some of the sessions I've been to here out here in the U.S. So I think Vedanta is basically philosophy, but it's a little bit beyond that. It's more practical, and maybe Claire takes a problem with it due to the philosophical nature of it. And I remember her saying one time she wants more practical stuff, but this was the practical stuff of that time. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. And like yoga and stuff comes under Vedanta too. They teach yoga.
Um, Vedanta. Okay, so um, my last question about Vedanta, and then we're going to move on, is what are the benefits of Vedanta? So Claire is looking for meat and potatoes. Like, what does
Got
Vedanta?
it. Well, the benefits are, I guess monotheism, or a support for monotheistic or monist belief. And there, she wants to know if there is a code of rules. I'm pretty sure. And gosh, like the goal of it, let's see, I guess, in the base sense, maybe not. Like in the base primal sense, I guess it doesn't scare people into submission. um but the goal of Vedanta is to come closer to God. That's the goal. So I think that's a worthy goal. That's a benefit. People who are close to God, I think, will not create a degenerate or a bad society, or do bad things to their children. So, in that sense, it is moral, and it also promotes a rejection of materialism. And that doesn't mean like being an ascetic completely, but just excess materialism is discouraged. So, it does promote good morals. And yeah, so I guess that's the meat and potatoes, which might not be enough for Claire, to be honest. But the point of dharma, or divine duty, is highly interlinked with Vedanta. And if you're not, supposedly, if every step you take is in the direction of God, and every action you take is in the direction of God, then you can't commit like any like evil act, or sin. So I guess that's the benefit.
Okay, so let's move on. So you know a little bit about Tantra.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yes.
Okay, does Tantra support Mon? What is Tantra? Explain Tantra.
So, Tantra actually is a component of yoga. If you look behind, before the first tantric texts, I think they're about 1,500 years old. But yantra, mantra, and tantra, right? So yeah, it's three components of meditation in yoga. Yantra is a geometric figure that you focus on. Mantra is the incantation, and tantra is how you move your body. So essentially, it's a body science, like movement of body, advanced asana, I guess, would be called tantra, right? And then tantra is the same yogic tradition, the same Vedic tradition, but it is for especially for the Kali Yuga as well. That's put forth just for the Kali Yuga. So that's the reason it's more tactile. It has more things like geometric figures to focus on, deities to focus on, a lot of rites and austerities. Um, in order to basically discipline the mind in this age. And I'm not going to talk even about Buddhism Tantra. That's different. It's an offshoot that came about later. But Tantra, basically, my understanding, Tantra goes all the way back to the original Veda. That's where the word comes from the Rig Veda. And it's a loom or a weaving device. That's the or a mess or the essence of something was is the original meaning. But then you come past the Puranas and all, and then there is like a Kashmiri Shaivism and Sri Vidya. So the 10 goddess worship. That's about 1,000, maybe 900 to 1,000 AD. And this is the modern tantra, right? So the tantra in this sense is simply a conversation between Shiva and his wife. So Shiva is the creator of all the other gods, even though he's not Brahman himself. He realizes, he realizes when it's time to essentially end the universe and create a new one and all that. That's his role. And he is seen by all the other gods and humans as being closest to Brahman. Sometimes it's even said in some of the tantric texts that we're all, Shiva is asleep and we're all dancing, components of his dream and things like that. But the Tantra Shastra that I'm talking about, 1,500 years old, more or less, was a conversation between Shiva and his wife. So his wife is looking at him and saying, "I want to be like you. Can you teach me how to become like you? How to become detached yet compassionate? How to become close to the divine yet live in this cosmos." And how do I do it? And then the reply from Shiva is the whole Tantra Shastra. That's the conversation between husband and wife becomes the Tantra Shastra. And there is a Sri Mahavidya, Das Mahavidya, the 10 forms of the goddess. So she, on her journey of learning how to ascend and become one with Brahman, she takes 10 incarnations. And another of the principal studies of Tantra is to meditate upon each of these 10 manifestations of the goddess in order to reach where she reached. Yeah, so that's Tantra basically. Um, the sexualization or hypersexualization of Tantra, I think, is just completely new age BS. The left hand path within Tantra. Now, today, if you go to some of the temples in India, there are certain things in Tantra that are done exactly opposed to every other prayer or puja in Hinduism. So there is an offering of sex, there's offering of meat, there's offering of alcohol, there's offering, I believe, of there's two other tamasic substances that are
I've
offered.
I've seen cigarettes. I've seen cigarettes at temples.
Right, tobacco is there, and then there's a fifth one which I cannot, like, maybe it's like datura or something like that, So yeah, it's a quite that's just a left hand path or the agori tantric path. It's not all of tantra. There is tantra appropriate for householders, that don't have that are not ascetics essentially, but these kinds of rituals are so like force, right? Like such a I guess so visceral because of the wandering nature of the mind in this age. So like to arrest the focus of the individual is why it's done that way. And there are further meanings, but one is, the offerings may be sattvic or like flowers, honey, so on and so forth. And then in certain times, like eclipses, the other five offerings that I mentioned that are tamasic are offered. But yeah, that's a little short recap of Tantra.
Okay, does Tantra ever support monotheism or monism?
It would, because it's a conversation that is seeking, like the two highest deities. Let's say the male is Shiva and Shakti, the female. That we as humans see the two highest deities in our reality. They themselves are seeking to transcend themselves, right, and go to Brahman. So yeah, I would say it is monotheistic, because if they were the end all be all, then why the fuck is Tantra even here? Like, why even create it? Why try to transcend? Why try to be better if you're the end all be all? You can just kind of live and make merry, I guess. But yeah, so I would say it is supporting monotheism.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to yoga. So you are a yoga teacher. Um okay, so what about yoga? Does yoga support monotheism and monism?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Because Yoga Shastra, Tantra Shastra, I think they were written at the same time, even though Patanjali comes before. And yogic techniques go back to the original four Vedas. Breathing techniques, meditation, and all that goes back. So they're all coming from the same set of traditions, is what I'm trying to say. And yoga is the point of yoga is union. Right? The word yoga means union, and it's seeking to be one with Brahman at the end of the day. That's yoga. That's the purpose of yoga.
Okay, I have a question. So back to Advaita Vedanta, that means that the Atman, which is your soul, is not different from Brahman, the universal soul.
It's different in the sense that it reincarnates. Brahman is the soul once it's free of that reincarnation.
Okay, but my thing is, how do you, if Brahman is outside space time and your Atman is inside space time, how do they unite?
No, it's not. It's well, I guess it would be. I guess Atman is a name given to Brahman inside of the reincarnation, right? So I guess,
Full
it's
Brahman.
a part of your soul that is not here, I guess, to be frank.
Atman, Atman is not the full Brahman though.
That's right. Correct.
Atman.
Correct. It's only a small. Yeah.
So I always wonder, how do you, how does Atman unite with Brahman if they're not the same substance?
Oh, they are. They are. It's just they are. They're the same substance, but it's not in its full extent in Atman. Brahman is not in its full. And the way to Brahman is like to connect with Atman as well, right? It's not, you can't just bypass and go through. So uh a better way to explain, mm, yeah, so Brahman is not creation. We're in creation, but within us is like a point of connection between the two, and that would be Atman.
Okay. Um. Okay. Um. Let me continue. Okay. So reincarnation yoga means union. You're trying to unite the Atman with the Brahman, right?
Correct.
Okay. Um. Okay. So. Okay. Let's move on to Vaishnavism. Um.
Hmm.
Does most of Vaishnavism support monotheism?
So this is where it becomes tricky, right? Vaishnavism and Shaivism are about 700 to 800 years old. And it began with a couple of kings in South India splitting up, like splitting hairs over who came first, Shiva or Vishnu. So they don't deny the existence of either or. They don't even care about Brahman. They don't care about Atman. all they focus on is like the devotion to Shiva or Vishnu, and it all depends upon who came first. And it seems from reading back history that this entire fight was created as a pretense to tear up a kingdom in South India. So it's really nonsensical, Vincent, in my eyes. Like the Vaishnavism, it's just, to me, and I would say the same if you brought up Shaivism, because I'm a Shaivite. But and like my neighbors are Vaishnavites, it's like our next door neighbor is a Vaishnavite and we're Shaivite and big fucking shit. So but we haven't killed each other for a few hundred years. So they're not going beyond the Trimurti or the Indian Trinity. They're not going beyond that. And they just want one of those to worship and then others to poo-poo on, essentially.
Okay, but would Vaishnavites believe, like, okay, you know how, like, in Gita, I know the Vaishnavites always say, like, Krishna said all other gods are demigods and emanate from me. I mean, isn't that monotheism?
Uh, yeah, yeah, I guess so. But Krishna is Vishnu, right? Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, and what he's saying is, okay, all of the demis come from Vishnu, which is true. That's true. But Vishnu isn't Brahman, right? And Vishnu comes from Shiva. Shiva creates Vishnu and Brahma at the beginning. So at the beginning of the universe is what I'm trying to say. So
So
um,
Vaishnavites don't believe that Shiva created Vishnu.
but it's written in the Vedas, whether they believe it or not. I guess you could interpret the story a different way, but he created Vishnu. He created Vishnu and Brahma. Like
So are you saying Vaishnavism can't be labeled exactly monotheism?
it could be, but I think they think Vishnu is the supreme, not Brahman. Like they're not concerned with Brahman because they're concerned with the three deities and which one is the highest of the three, essentially, in the Trinity.
Okay, so there is no Brahman in Vaishnavism.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, they don't believe in any of that. Yeah,
So is Vishnu inside or outside space time or both?
perhaps both. Yeah, both. Especially if you look at the Hare Krishna and stuff, both.
Now, in my experience, Vaishnavites tend to be very socially conservative, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's very true. Shaivites are more akin to Tantra and Aghori Tantra and stuff like that. Asceticism. Vaishnavites are, they got money and they're concerned with the flow of money in society.
Okay. Is Claire there? Claire, have you come back?
No, I don't hear her.
No, I don't hear her there.
Shame.
Um, okay. Okay. So, um, what am I trying to say? Or let's continue with this. Hindu speaks on Noahide Kabbalah subversion of Vedanta, Tantra, Yoga, and Vaishnavism. So basically, what these Noahide Jews are trying to do is Noahidize these monotheistic practices in Hinduism, relating it to Kabbalah and relating it to the Noahide laws. Now, one of the Noahide laws says that would be that Brahman itself, as it is, cannot enter space time. It would have to be separate, which, from what you've said, it seems as though it fits all those descriptions. Um, and Yeah, it fits all those descriptions.
It
Also,
could, yeah, it could. But you have to consider the Atman link is there in this, like not the You're right. If you just took Vedanta and all that, but Tantra will never reject reality, like material reality. At least out of all of those, maybe all of the others would reject material reality as like an illusion or lower than. But Tantra would not. Tantra would not look at that. Material reality is lower than Brahman
Okay.
illusion.
Um, okay. Um, okay. Um, what? Okay, you said that you were. Are I mean, okay. So we know Hindu has an alliance with Zionism because of the anti.
Just because of politics, like you can see.
Yeah, as politics. But my fear is that this is starting to become spiritual and that there's a massaging of Hinduism. Now, the thing
Mhm.
that are you familiar with Arya Samaj?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Arya Samaj is kind of like what they want Hindus to become monotheistic um, people who don't practice Murti Puja. That's
Mm.
where they're trying to head it, though in the beginning they're going to accept Murti Puja um, under the most lenient rabbis. There's lenient rabbinical interpretations of the Noahide laws, which would allow Murti Puja. The thing is that everyone says, oh,
Yeah,
well,
because they want to get the housewives in, I imagine.
yes. Yeah, they want yes, exactly. It's at first they're going to allow it, and basically what it's going to be is well, if you're good to Jews, that means you're moral, and so therefore you're Noahide. And even though Islam seems more Noahide, um, it because Muslims have problems with Jews and sometimes cause problems for them, therefore they're disqualified as Noahides. And yeah, so
Oh,
I
okay.
Claire, have you come back yet?
Claire is pro-Jew, right? Or no?
In a way,
Okay. You know, India used to be anti-Jew in 1945, 1947 to 50.
yep. Yeah, they voted for Palestine and everything, right?
Yeah, and I believe we sent people to fight with the Nazis or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. In World War, I think in World War Two.
Right, and like it was, like I mean, there were like slurs and stuff about them and money and shit, like it's not like they were really anti-Jew.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, it just interesting that you brought that up. There's that non-dualism. I remember reading there was this book called Black Sun. It was about
Oh, Hitler's expedition?
no, Black Sun was about neo-Nazi Nazism after Hitler. What the different organizations
Oh,
and
oh, right.
book that they went to India and they were shocked to see veneration of Hitler and Stalin in the same little skulls.
Oh God.
Yeah, they had images of Hitler and Stalin in the same little kind of like I don't know if they were worshiping them, but they
Yeah, like a little what, like an altar?
yeah, a little altar, and they had both the pictures there that that non-duality kind of thing that
Oh my God.
yeah you know
That sounds more Hegelian, than Advaita, but I see how they're trying to skew it.
yeah yeah okay, so what do you think look, I warned the Hindus for 10 years about Hindu Noahidism coming, and I basically got the cold shoulder. I mean, do you see this going anywhere?
I think the battle may already be lost, because maybe it's ignorant people that kind of silence you or whatever. But I think a lot of people don't want this to be known on purpose until it's already too late, because we started out with a few thousand Jews in a country of over a billion right now. So, that's 10 years ago. But if they can get that number up, and then later on you can speak about it, I think. But now I think, it's like a quiet on purpose. And Trump's in power here, Netanyahu, Modi over there. And I think they just want to wait and play their plans out. So I guess we could talk about it and keep informed. I mean, because I never called it Noahide Hinduism, but the Zionist connection was real apparent to me from my own experiences in politics, like watching the politics in my country, but also just my own experiences with Israelis in my country. So it's yeah,
I I
it's
heard
the
the
battle
Israel
might be lost.
I heard the Israelis behave horribly in India.
They do, yeah, yeah.
Lots of drugs and stuff, right?
Right, and it's like you're supposed to fold your hands in front of your chest and say yes, master, and keep serving them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's pretty outright. You can see it outright.
Now, I
Isn't it?
warned Hindus. I said if you got in bed with Zionism, the whole world would turn on you. And you see that happening now, where now India and Hindus are correlated with Zionism, and everyone is just, if you go online, the
Right,
amount the amount of hatred for Indians and Hinduism is exploding.
right, right. Yeah, but that's also because Hindus will not read the Vedas, I think. It's like just go and do it for yourself. But we're here like politicizing dharma, and it's just not, I just want to say that I've been kicked out of a lot of groups, like Hindutva groups, and been called secular and shit, just for saying like, oh, like, do you really think that the Bhagavad Gita says to go to war right now against Muslims, and like that they're the demons and shit? And yeah, so it's like critical thinking is absent. um I wish more Hindus thought critically, at least the ones that have no agenda. The other ones, I think there's a lot of Hindus online with a specific agenda. So that to sift those from the naive ones that are just getting pulled up into it, it's going to be real hard. It has been real hard. And this Hindutva reaction was programmed into us because just 25, 30 years ago, we all wanted to be white. So in school, if you spoke your native language, you were called an uncouth and, just like a uneducated, illiterate. If you had a traditional jewelry on, you were sent home from school. So this kind of thing has been going on for a long time, up until, even 10 years ago, it was going on. So I think a majority of people are just reacting to being oppressed in this way, and then they're getting kind of swirled up into the net that the Zionist Hindus have waiting for them. That's what I think.
Okay, Claire is not coming on, but she's been talking in the back. So, she says she's pro simplicity and strength. You make it simple so people understand and remember. Simple beliefs are strong, so people believe from generation to generation. Well, I want to say Hindus have believed in these things from generation to generation, and Vedanta has been passed down from generation to generations. Um, if it's complicated, this is one thing she says. If it's complicated, it can be undermined. Occam's razor. Occam's razor is
I
not
don't
right.
know if I agree with that statement, that if it's complicated, it can be undermined.
Well, not, but not, just because something's complicated doesn't mean it's false.
Right. Or that you can undermine it. I think that nuance makes things harder to undermine, in my opinion.
My position is that Noahide Hinduism is a contradiction in terms unless all idols are removed. So she's admitting that, look, I mean, Claire didn't really like the fact that I brought up Arya Samaj because she didn't like the fact that there's already a tradition of idolless Hinduism and that there's actually a standard to say, okay, this is what we're looking for monotheistic Hindus that don't practice Murti Puja. So she prefers Islam and Judaism because they're codified. Codified principles are crucial to an accountable leadership.
Unless all idols are removed. Right. And what Murti is idol according to Claire, right?
Yes. Yeah, she doesn't. I try to explain to Claire that it's not really idolatry because Brahman in its full form is not taking shape. The Hindu American Foundation, who is heavily involved with Jews and Noahidism directly, basically made it clear that when you have an idol, God remains an immaterial presence. So Claire doesn't like to admit that it's really not idol worship because Brahman, God, is not inhabiting the idol.
Right. And I think it can be a contradiction and still take over then. You know what I'm saying? Because there's powerful people behind this and money involved. So like, it can, all right, maybe it's a contradiction, maybe Mutis are idols according to Zionism, but they can still kind of make it run. And I
Yeah,
think it's because we have so many people over there in India.
yeah. Well, I've shown Claire about 5 or 6 rabbis that say that Hinduism is kosher, and she hasn't been able to provide one rabbi that said that. Oh well, murtis are idols, and Hinduism is idolatry and needs to be banned under the Noahide laws. I don't think there's a single rabbi out there that's
They
saying that.
won't do it, Claire. They won't ban it. They won't ban it. They want all those people.
Yeah, they
Right. And I want to say, like, the British education system been in place for 300 years in my country, discourages critical thinking. Absolutely. It was designed to create clerical staff in engineering and medical positions and not people who ask questions. So they need all of those people who won't ask questions and who will follow Modi zealously and who will follow religion blindly, uh, to acquiesce to their laws. So they're gonna do it. It's gonna be run. I would say it's already being run.
I was going. Are you aware of all those Noahide conversion centers in India? The schools for the children, the congregations being built. Are you aware of that?
Well, I looked up on your blog spot about that, and I have not been to a single one. But what I know of is the Catholic connection. So they pull a lot from like the nuns, and which were Jesuits. Originally, Jesuits were the ones that came in and established these missions and stuff that still exists today, the Catholic schools and all that. So that's what my personal familiarity with these Jewish quote unquote conversion type scenarios is that they reach in through the Catholic schools and convents. And another thing I wanted to mention is they also come in through Bollywood a lot. Bollywood is an Israeli operation from its inception 100 years ago, but a lot of these actors are Jewish and in Bollywood as well. So you influence, come in through various areas, right? Like it's not just Bollywood, it's not just the education, it's also in business, it's also in advertising, it's also in marketing. So um, the thing being sold to the average Hindu girl is, look at your prudish ass religion. You can't wear a short skirt, you can't wear a crop top. What's this about? Come over here. We're much more progressive. We're the progressive women of India. We'll teach you, we'll take you in, we'll care for you. And fuck the patriarchy essentially. I see it coming in through all these angles. Obviously, they won't be saying that in those those centers where they're wearing like their head coverings and all that. That those centers are going to be about medical aid and free education for rural children, and therefore, in exchange, you accept this Noahide Hinduism as your creed. Of course you would. Why not? They're paying for your food, clothing, and shelter and education. Why not?
Claire, have you returned? Let's see if she. Let's see what she's saying in the back. Hold on. No, she hasn't returned. I don't know what she's doing. She must be busy. Yeah, so it's a big problem over there. I know you said you wanted to go for an hour, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're coming to the end of that hour. Do you think we discussed? I think we covered the what's in the title. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the Kabbalah and
Yeah,
what it has to do with this.
but I'm reading. I have a book now that you should have gotten the first chapter summary,
I
right?
have, I have, yeah, I have it here. Part
Like,
one of book review: Two Ways of Light, Kabbalah and Vedanta by James and Judd.
yeah, Two Ways of Light, Kabbalah and Vedanta by James and Judd. I don't know a lot about Kabbalah, so he teaches you Kabbalah. It's a very thin book, so it's not like thick and like real deep. But he teaches you Kabbalah, he teaches you Vedanta, and then he fuses them, and that's what I've been focusing on. This, um, they're trying to create a spirituality for the Gentiles that doesn't excuse me, break the Noahide laws.
Mm.
You know, as I said at the beginning of this, Noahidism can be very dry. No festivals, not allowed to read the rest of Talmud, discouraged from reading Kabbalah. So, but if you mix Kabbalah with Vedanta and get it, you'll have something. Hello, are you there?
Yeah. What was that last part? You'll have something if you mix the two, and then it got cut off. What
Yeah,
you're saying?
you'll have something for them to listen to or to follow if you mix the two, and it keeps it Jewish. They don't want you running away from Noahidism becoming a Hindu, but you know if you attach it back to Kabbalah, and then they can say, well, we've had Kabbalah since the beginning of time, and Vedanta actually um uh
Oh,
affirms Kabbalah, and that kind of thing.
Hi, Annapurna and
Hello.
Vincent. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
late. I thought I'd just chime in before you moved on to the next
Are you there?
subject. Hello, you can't hear me? You can't hear
we
me?
can hear you, Claire. I mean, I can.
Oh,
Oh,
Vincent, you
I
can't
can't
hear
hear you,
me?
Claire.
Oh dear. Shall I leave and come back again?
Hold on, let me try to drop out and come back in and see if I can hear her.
These things are happening on StreamYard now. It used to only happen on Spaces. Yeah, things are getting so glitchy. What's
Yeah,
it
my
because
messed up
so
big.
many people are streaming compulsively?
Perhaps.
Well, someone I know said StreamYard are so low and dirty. They try to entice you in with a half price on Black Monday, and then they raise the price the next month and hope you don't notice.
Yes, ma'am. That's a fact.
Claire, I'll
Hmm.
be back.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Vincent, or shall I go and come back? Hello, hello.
I think the problem's on Vincent's end, Claire, because I can't
Okay.
hardly hear what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a bit of what you said, but I mean, it's really like, I know it's difficult for Hindus. It's like, if you take all the idols out of Hinduism, it'll lose its color, right? And it's going to be so difficult to get people to do it, and they won't,
He's
don't you
saying
think?
that at first the plan is to allow it, is what he's saying.
Oh, shall I leave and come back again? Maybe then we will all hear each other.
All
Okay,
right,
that's
try
what I'll
it.
do.
Try it.
Hello?
Oh, wait, I can hear you now. Claire said she was going out and coming in.
I think she just did.
Hello.
Hi. So Claire, I mean Anna has to go soon, but I just wanted to get your opinion. I know you weren't impressed.
No, I'm just saying that you can't really forbid the Indians who are Hindu and get them to throw out their idols because they just won't. I can imagine them getting all
Well,
angry about
Ar-
that.
Arya Samaj has already done it, and if you give it some time, then yes, maybe that's possible. If
It's not the only one, though, Vincent. There's a few quote unquote, I call them just cults. That there's a ladies only one that without idols, and they had an angle where
who? What is it
the
called?
Brahma Kumari. So
Oh, Ari doesn't have idols.
they don't have idols.
So, so Claire, there's internal Okay, even before the Noahide laws were being promoted, there were Hindus rejecting idols because Annapurna, it's true. Noahide Bra, who's a Hindu Noahide, say that idols are only about 2,500 years old.
That could be true, but I've seen some older in a temple.
Of
And the
course.
purpose of these idols, it could have been different than what we are told because so I'm also a student of dance, of the Indian traditional dance, and there's beneficial postures, for body alignment and things like that, and keeping fit essentially. And I'd seen them in these postures, and then certain other ones were almost showing you how to walk, even like some of the statues are, the way how to symmetrically walk, how to stand straight, how to sit straight. So I wonder, there's nuance to this idol thing. But there were no formal temples originally. Like the temple was in nature as well. So that's another thing we have to examine as Hindus. This temple building stuff, which
Exactly.
seems to be monetary.
The thing back to Veda, Samhita Veda. Well, I mean, yeah, because there's no when you read Samhita Veda, there's no idol making, there's no nor in Upanishad there's no idol making, right?
Hmm. Oh,
No, but in the
have you guys
original
discussed?
Vedas there are. Sorry,
Have,
go
have
ahead.
you have you guys discussed Dayananda Saraswati?
Yeah, he's the founder of Arya Samaj.
Right, right, okay.
Yeah, so Claire,
And he was poisoned. He was poisoned, wasn't
not
he?
for, but not for he was poisoned not for getting rid of idols. But the thing is that they're not, like she said, they're not the only ones, and it shows that there's already an internal movement inside of Hinduism to get rid of idols. And you're banking on. But first of all, Claire, we've already agreed. Annapurna agrees that at first they're not going to make them get rid of the idols. At first, they're not.
Well, if you're gonna do this, slowly, slowly catchy monkey, then you probably, it's been going on since what? Dayananda Saraswati, and he was a Victorian, wasn't he? He died in the
But
1800s.
that wasn't the Jews. That
That's
was
right.
Hindus naturally give up Murti Puja oftentimes because they believe that it's not original.
But there are many cults focusing on that. So the Brahmakumari angle was to go after housewives that were getting raped. I'm sorry, raped by their husbands, and basically that's how they went in. They got them all to take vows of celibacy for God, and so the husbands wouldn't touch them. And then slow and steady, the murtis and stuff started to disappear, and they've replaced it with their guru, their baba, or whoever. Baba meaning dad. I mean, like they just call him dad straight up.
But I mean, as I see it, you need a strong and simple faith. So um, fast talking charlatans and con men don't trick the ordinary people by oversimple making things deliberately complicated and whatever. And I think really that's a problem. So I don't think half measures really help, because it just means, oh, you think you're doing something, but actually you're not, and you're just um, making the problem worse. I think it's a shame not to do it properly, or at least state the position clearly, even though people will you don't see them doing it in your lifetime.
But their purpose is to convert eventually, right? They're playing the long game of slowly but surely converting. Like maybe my generation won't give up Murti Puja, but the next generation will easily. They're coming in with iPads.
Do you
So
think so? Because I think people are just attached to things, to physical, material things. It's not necessarily idols, but
yeah,
people.
they got their iPads, they got their cell phone, they got their recreational drugs and stuff now in India. So yeah,
Yeah,
my
exactly.
generation is majority atheists, and I'm in my 30s. So
Yeah, so the idea is that even the people who are supposed to have the correct belief in God, i.e., Jews and Muslims, they actually have a concept of hidden idolatry. I don't know if you have heard of it, but basically it's you know being hypocritical, and not even only appearing to believe in God and obey His laws, and
right.
praying too loudly, praying too softly, and not really believing, and giving all kinds of irrelevant and irrational reasons not to follow the logic of their beliefs. And this all manifests itself as hypocrisy. And in the Quran, there's a chapter on hypocrisy, saying that they're cursed and will go to hell. And that is why I like the Quran. It basically blocks all the exits of these hypocrites, and these the people who only use a religion to make themselves sound better than they are. People who virtue signal.
Yeah, I understand your point. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean that you see. I mean, the Jews and the Muslims, they are, actually, you know, I think they have even less of an excuse. And it's like, well, you have your book, you have your laws, but you don't follow it, and
Mhm.
over the centuries, you've just cooked up so many ridiculous reasons not to follow it because you don't want to, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there is a way of shaming them, and the whole idea of, I mean, you Annapurna gave me this brilliant idea of, it's like, if you can give dangle the carrot of a greater India in front of Modi and say, well,
Mhm.
if you get Pakistan back, wouldn't that be great? And if you can get it through secular Quranism with Indian characteristics, that they'd have to come back, right? And then
Indeed.
you won't offend your own people by saying you have to throw out your idols, so everybody's happy, hopefully, in theory.
Maybe not so clean, but at least it's viable, I think. But my problem with Modi is I do think he's a Zionist. I believe he's a Zionist, but again, he doesn't want to appear as a Zionist, so it's all about appearance, right? And you
Well,
can
I mean,
make
the Muslims don't like me saying to them that actually, if they read chapter 17, verse 104 of the Quran, it would appear that Allah is also Zionist. And then they kick me out, and after their heads explode, and then and then they do streams trying to explain what I've just said, and it makes no sense. I've tried to understand them. I mean, I can send you a paper about it, and some incomprehensible stream about it by a Muslim, but they have no explanation, because basically that verse says that in the end times, God will ingather the Jews back
yeah.
into the promised land. I mean, it actually says that. So it's saying if you're not there already, you're going to be put there. God will, gather you all and dump you all there with the Gentiles. That is what it says. And the whole point is that Jews are supposed to live with Gentiles. That is the whole point of it all. And they still don't get it or pretend not to.
Hmm.
So, but okay, I mean, what we can say is that if God, okay, the Jews will say, oh, Muslims, your God is
Hmm.
actually Zionist, Allah is Zionist, and then the Muslims can say, yes, he allows Jews to live there, but only if they live under Sharia,
Oh,
right? Like that's the, that's the point. That is a conclusion of the argument. And of course, the Americans will have something to say about it, because, imagine if the Israelis said, okay, we'll live under Sharia then. And I mean, do you think America would allow it? Of course not. Because, at the back of their minds, they will know if Israel lives under Sharia, it means America will live under Sharia. They can, they can't, maybe work out how, but they sort of sense it. And that would be the way things go. If supposing the Israelis happily say, okay, we'll live under Sharia.
which
So I
would
think these
never
arguments
happen,
are
right?
worth making, because they're easily understood. You understood them immediately, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think that Israelis would willingly convert. I'm sorry, would willingly adopt Sharia. Do you?
We don't know. But, the thing is, you have to keep making these arguments. Of course, they're going to, if you say it once, they'll think, did I even hear that? I'll pretend I didn't hear about it, and I'll forget about it. And then, and if you say to more people, they'll say, ooh, that's not a nice idea. We'll just suppress it by ignoring it and telling everybody else to ignore it, which is kind of what they did to me,
Right.
right? And then what the next step is to make it unignorable.
Mm.
And, unfortunately, the Muslims are a bit, slow about it.
Yeah,
Because,
and
it's like they hate the Jews so much they can't even contemplate for a moment using the Noahide laws against them. Because, okay, if you're an American, it's like Noahide laws or Sharia. And it's like, well, Sharia supports the First Amendment, because chapter 2, verse 256 supports the First Amendment. So unless you're crazy and you don't like the First Amendment
some
and
say
you're
we're
being,
already under Noahide law in the U.S. Some say.
well, I mean, unless they're executing idolaters and blasphemers, officially the First Amendment still exists
True.
and is
True.
in force. But if they really wanted to implement the Noahide laws, they would have to say idolatry and blasphemy will incur, legal penalties. And this is what
But
Vincent has been
it's
saying all
probably
along.
because they have like a secret. But this is conspiracy land. But they got like a secret religion in there, right? Like that's why they won't outlaw that, because they have their secret idols and stuff they pray to.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but I mean, Vincent was saying, that when they were in the ancient kingdom of Israel, that the authorities there did actually execute idolaters and blasphemers, because according to the 36 death capital offenses of the Torah, idolatry and blasphemy were capital offenses, and also
This is
Christianity
about the
confirms
golden
this
calf.
story.
This is about the golden calf, right? And how they gave themselves over to the worship of the calf rather than to God. This is in the Old Testament, I believe, what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yes, it is, because no sooner had Moses gone up to Mount Sinai,
Right.
they melted down, an idol and turned it into a golden calf and worshipped it. And when he came down, he had to execute, I think, 3,000 of them. So that's where they got the idea that idolatry attracts a death penalty. So, but
Yeah, but
the
they were giving their children, I believe. They were sacrificing children on the altar of that calf.
Molech, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that so that was the Canaanites, right? And the Jews,
Right.
basically
Right.
conquered the Canaanites and put them under their dominion. So for Jews, idolatry and blasphemy and breaking the Sabbath, they all incur the death penalty. And that's why Jesus was convicted of blasphemy when he said his papa was God.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, that's the whole story. And then they arrested him and tried him before the Sanhedrin and found him guilty. But because the Romans were in charge, they couldn't execute them themselves. So that was why they pestered Pontius Pilate
Indeed.
to
Yeah.
execute Jesus. And Pontius Pilate said, well, it's not the sort of thing that we execute people for. It's
Right.
un-Roman or something. And so he wouldn't do it. Until it was Passover, and and there was the chance that the Jews might.
Well, didn't they appeal to Caesar? They appealed
No,
to Caesar to pass the execution order, right?
yeah. So I think it was Passover, and the story was that they had a chance to what's the word? Give amnesty to people to be executed, and there was Barabbas and there was Jesus, but the
Right.
Jews chose to, yes, forgive Barabbas, and that was why Jesus was executed. That is the story, anyway. But
Right.
according to Muslims, Jesus didn't die on the cross. It only appeared that he had died on the cross, which is an interesting narrative, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard this. I think you mentioned this before. That I've never heard. I have to ask a Muslim about this. But
Yeah, because actually, this is, it's like I get so frustrated with these Muslims. It's like, and this is how you can get the Christians, because, if a Christian were, sorry, a Muslim were to go to a Christian and say, good news, Christian, Jesus didn't die horribly on the cross. Because
Right.
God lifted him directly to heaven. He didn't suffer. Aren't you pleased? And the Christian would say, no, we want him to die. We want him to die for our sins.
Yeah, I guess they might call it blasphemy at that point.
No, and then the Muslim can say, oh, so you want to practice human sacrifice. Is that a Christian thing to do? And apparently it is. And cannibalism is also a Christian thing. All this pretending to eat the flesh of Jesus and drink his blood. All very Christian.
Right, indeed, yeah.
No,
Well,
I mean, Annapurna, these
like
arguments are so
formalized.
easy to make, but nobody makes them.
I understand. Yeah, that's true. It's people are more intent on getting offended, I guess.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they. I mean, I was talking to what's his name? Neuro Jack. When
Oh yeah, the other day when you came up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were there,
Hmm.
and he's Christian, and there were all these other Christians that Machine was kind of hanging out with, right?
Yeah, yeah. At Unseen Warfare. Yeah, he's an Orthodox Christian. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
the
I
thing
think
is,
who else was a Christian in there? I'm because we were not. Me and TMO are not Christians, but I'm trying to figure out who else was a Christian in there. But I think Unseen Warfare was arguing your points.
yeah, but the thing is, I really think, okay,
But they will say all that is not true Christianity. That's the point you were getting at, right?
no, I'm just saying, forget all these narratives. It's the idolatry point that you can keep making again and again. I mean, obviously, it's going to
Oh,
offend those Christians, but it's like, it's okay. They should be offended, because if they're not offended, they're not getting it, right? And, unfortunately, with you guys, I mean, I guess a lot of Hindus are going to get offended too.
oh yeah.
And that's probably why these rabbis don't want to say it, because it's like, I mean, they probably think that we're talking to them because they're going to get offended whatever we say, you
Right.
know.
Unlike
So we're
you,
not going to say anything, or we'll say yes and no,
Claire,
if they insist.
Claire, unlike you, they have time. They're doing this they're not gonna just come in and be
They
like,
really think they have they've been playing the long game. I agree with Vincent.
Okay, well, at least I know, that I have to do it ASAP. I'm not going to, mess around and think I'm going to be looking down
Well,
on
you're gonna be
humanity
here
from a
for 1,000
cloud.
years in the future in a transhuman body.
No, the thing is, if
You'll be
something
here
should
to
be
reap
done, it
the
must be
fruits of
done.
your
If it
labor.
must be done, it must be done as soon as possible. You know, not in my next life or anything like that.
No, I mean like, well, the plan is to like not die, right? Claire, like that. That's the that's the game being played, right? They're gonna outlive us all
No, no,
and reap
no. The thing
the
is,
reward.
no. I think that the objective is to kind of pass the exam before we die, right? Because that's the whole point of the Noahide laws.
But
That
because a lot of Jewish people, when you talk to them, it's not really reincarnation. Because I had this reincarnation topic come up with Jewish people a lot, but they don't think that they're reincarnated from the time of Noah and stuff. They think that they were there, like they were like the same day were there. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't know how that makes sense, but some of
well, they
these
do talk a lot of nonsense.
they're trying to assert that they've been alive for like 1,000 plus years. Some shit.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, unfortunately, with these Jews, it's like they have no pope, so any Jew can say whatever they like, and and suffer no consequences. You
Well, yeah,
know,
yeah. It
it's
seems
it.
like a permissive religion,
Well,
certainly.
the thing is, they don't have a pope, and it seems that they're so divided they don't even think they don't even want one. A bit
But
like
they have
Muslim.
this thing called the Kahela, right? They have some kind of a central institution.
Um, well, the thing is, there's Reform Judaism, Liberal Judaism, Conservative Judaism,
True.
Modern Orthodox, Orthodox, Ultra
But then
Orthodox.
look at where their children are. Like almost all the Jewish kids go to school in like the Jewish school, right? And they have like these, I don't know, I mean, I'm just talking with some parents and stuff, but they seem incredibly organized to me, Claire, because they're role playing situations, like questioning their faith and stuff, like in some of these, just from the moms, like from some of the textbooks and stuff I've seen from their Jewish school. They got like full color storybooks, coloring books, but they're also role playing like these, like somebody comes up and like questions your faith and shit, like at age 7, 8, like you know how to respond. And it's not even just like about your it's like you know how to tell, like I'm trying to give you an example. Basically it was like some kid had said, "Oh yeah, your culture teaches you to be good with money," or something like that to a Jewish kid, and then the
Hmm.
kid like did not let it go. It was like half an hour back and forth, and it was like, "No, you can't say that. That's offensive. You can't say it this way. You can't say it that way." And then eventually, it was like, "Oh yeah, you can say that your culture." No, people from your community often like teach their children to manage money well or something like that.
Oh, the tone policing. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
they pride on, but I mean I suppose the trick is not to fall for it,
yeah.
and not to modify your language. It's like it's not it's not hate speech to have an opinion and say it in a way that stop tone policing me. Because the
True,
thing
but
is,
like like a child is not like a regular kid isn't that like the kid wasn't sophisticated, like the one that was arguing with the Jewish kid, not at all. So they complied, like and a child like children is just very interesting, like that they trained up their children to be like that so that they can make sure other children are in line, not as an adult. But this is just to the point that I do believe they're incredibly organized and they're very wealthy, and that counts for something, and uh,
mhm.
yeah, and maybe that a lot of the disorganization is an apparent thing. Maybe it's an illusion, because like length and breadth wise, Jews here, Jews in India, from Israel, like they seem to agree upon certain things that like they won't budge on. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, I suppose if you're Jewish and you have all those rules, I mean, you're just mentally equipped to be a lawyer, right? Because the rules are for you to get around. Um, and they learn that from an early age, to talk like a lawyer, to think like a lawyer. So, that gives them, an advantage that, other, children might not have. But I think, Muslim children could have this sort of thing too, except that a lot of Muslims don't really they don't really read
Yeah,
their
no, it's
book.
not a priority to understand the Quran. That's what I'm saying. Like the Jews, they know about their books.
Yeah, but don't you think that a lot of Muslim um, empires might actually want the ordinary people not to take too much of an interest in the Quran? I mean, you don't want your
Absolutely.
subject to say,
Yeah,
"I
yeah,
know my rights."
yeah. If you're talking about somewhere like Saudi or something like that, 100%.
Yeah, exactly,
Hundred
exactly.
percent,
No,
because like places like Saudi and stuff, like they have all this extra rules to control the masses, but then they have like a second class of rules for the top, right? So the top brass gets like prostitutes and shit, and whatever. Their kids study abroad,
well,
but
I
yeah,
mean, the thing is, it's so fake because Saudi is an absolute monarchy, and this means that MBS has the right to sign the death warrant of Saudi, his
anyone,
subjects. So
anyone,
so he's above the law, right? I mean that is the reality of having an absolute monarch. And you
yeah,
have somebody who might on a whim decide to sign your death warrant, and it doesn't have to go through the court process. And that was what used to happen in Tudor England.
right,
Elizabeth I had to sign the death warrant of Mary Queen of Scots, that kind of thing.
right, right.
And and I think fundamentally it's to do with what form the government takes. And I'm afraid Western government, Westerners as a whole, they don't really get it about their own history, because the British in particular, it's sort of, they think it's okay that they now have a constitutional monarchy, and that, poor old King Charles, he hasn't got his First Amendment rights, but nobody cares about that. Nobody wants to ask any questions. But it's like, what's the point of having a king if he has fewer rights than his subjects?
Right.
Because if he were to become any kind of Christian, he would be out of a job. He'd be compelled to abdicate.
But aren't they Anglican?
Yeah. I mean, but it's meaningless, because if you speak to any...
Yeah, it's just symbolic. Yeah.
I mean, you could be introduced to somebody who says his religion is Anglicanism, and he would be dissing his own religion within, minutes of being introduced to you.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, it's hard for them to, it makes no sense. So, if it's a fashion to mock it, then they will, because it can't be defended. Basically, it can't be defended the moment they stopped burning heretics at the stake. I mean, how are you going to defend the Trinity?
Right. I agree. Yeah. I mean, that had meaning. You mean to say during like the time of the Crusades?
Oh no, I mean the Trinity is something. I mean,
Well, to
I
be
think I'm the only
Anglican,
one who understands it. So
to be
basically,
to be Anglican would have had some meaning, because it's essentially a military connotation, right? Like to the right to kill non-believers, essentially.
oh no, I mean, they were always killing each other, but I mean, to be Anglican is to be Protestant, and the English
Oh,
Reformation was basically about, Henry VIII saying to the Pope, or asking the Pope, to divorce his first wife so he could marry another, and try and produce an heir. And because his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was related to
she was,
the Pope, there was some political
but
reason, I
she
don't
was
remember
a
exactly. He
barren
said
woman,
no.
right?
Pardon?
The Spanish queen she was Spanish, right? And she was a barren queen.
No, she did produce a daughter who turned out to be Bloody Mary.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
but now he didn't want a bastard. He wanted.
No. It's nothing to do with illegitimacy. So
Like
basically,
he didn't want to sire just a bastard. Like keep the marriage and sire a bastard son.
no. I mean, they were properly married. It's just that he wanted a son,
Right,
and by
but
the
he
time
couldn't stay married. He couldn't stay married and then have a bastard son and then raise it. Like no one would know. Like that was pretty common, right? Like they would have a bastard and then raise it as a royal, or kind of keep it away somewhere else until his time. Like he had to divorce her. he had
well,
to.
he had to annul the marriage, because that was how Catholics operated, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
it was till death to us part, So
Right.
even kings had to observe the rule of monogamy. It was for keeps, and you're not allowed to have a divorce. And the only way they could get round that was to pretend that the marriage never took place, or there was some
Oh,
reason to pretend it never took place.
got it.
Yeah. And so the Pope wouldn't grant Henry his annulment. So he said, "Well, I'll become my own Pope." And
He
so
can divorce. Yeah, he can divorce.
exactly. So then he married Anne Boleyn, and she produced Elizabeth, but he wasn't happy, and then he had her beheaded after accusing her of incest. And then his third wife, Jane Seymour, who he loved, finally produced him a son, but he was a sickly son, and I think he died when he was 13 or 15. I forget which now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
in the end, he just he couldn't even manage
He
to do that.
He didn't have a male heir, right? In the end, he only had 2 daughters.
Yeah. So after Henry died, Edward inherited, but he didn't live for very long. So it went to so after Edward died, Mary, Bloody Mary, who was a
The
staunch
oldest.
Catholic, you
Yeah.
know, and then she started executing all these Protestants, and then she died, and then her her half sister Elizabeth inherited the throne and tried
Correct.
to keep the peace.
Right. Right. Right.
But
But my
basically,
whole thing is the kings were having illegitimate children all over the place. And
yeah,
that.
but the thing is, if you wanted to be the Prince of Wales, you had to be the legitimate son of the king. There was no way of
Oh
getting around that.
shit!
You can't
Yeah,
just sort
it's
of
not
say,
even just an earl or something. We're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
yeah, I mean, you can't sort of, oh, my barren wife, suddenly produced a child and nobody saw her being pregnant, nobody saw her, giving birth.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they can't do that, not royalty anyway.
Right.
So it wasn't, possible. So that's basically, the whole is, so the English Reformation was really about Henry saying, I'm not going to be told by the Pope, who I can and can't marry, and if I have to have a son, I have to have a son. And he probably, said things like, well, Jews managed to get a divorce, so why can't I? You
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
Um, and of course the reasons for the Reformation on the continent was somewhat different, with Martin Luther nailing his 95 thesis on the door of, I forget which church now. But yeah, so basically it was about the kings. It wasn't sort of ordinary people rejecting the Pope. It was basically the monarchs of Europe saying, we don't have to listen to you anymore, Pope. We know you're just another politician like us, you know.
Right.
But I mean, if you look at the history, Henry II, as who was obviously before Henry VIII, he was threatening to convert to Islam because he was so sick and tired of the Pope kicking him around and bossing him around and telling him what to do, because what the Pope would do to monarchs who didn't toe his line was to say, well, the prayers you are conducting in your country, they're not going to work because you've made God angry. But really what you've done is just make the Pope angry. And it would be called an interdict, saying, oh, I don't know, prayers for the dead or something, they don't work and their souls will be,
Damn. Yeah.
or in purgatory or something like that. I don't know
Indeed.
what
Yeah.
they believed
Like
exactly.
they're not gonna pass over. Essentially, they're not passing to heaven.
Yeah. So so that was annoying for the king, and there was a rumor that King John was plotting to convert to Islam, with some, I forget, some Muslim king or something, to because he was so fed up about the Pope. But of course even the kings were afraid, because when you do
Because of
have
what the
absolute power, you need
populace,
to.
the populace would become unruly, right? If you took away their beacon of faith,
Yeah,
because your
they say.
authority is coming from essentially God through the Pope.
Exactly. So, and the Pharaoh tried to do that. It was Akhenaten, right? He probably got fed up with all the priests of Egypt, of Osiris and Isis, and all the rest of them, and he said, right, I'm going to change our religion. We're going to have a new capital, and you're going to worship the sun disk through me. And so that was the new religion, for as long as he lived. But the moment he died, everything went back to what it was before. So even absolute monarchs with absolute power just couldn't get it through in their lifetimes. Until Abraham, because Abraham came after Akhenaten. according to the timeline. But I suppose, the appeal of the Abrahamic God might be, mercy, and this whole idea of um, abolishing human sacrifice. Because the story of Abraham and Isaac was that, Abraham was so obedient that when he heard God say, "You have to go and kill your son," he was prepared to do so. And then God said, "Oh, I was only kidding. I was just testing you. Thank you for passing the test." Um, and human sacrifice is hereby banned. That kind of story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but we can compare the obedience of Abraham to Henry the Second, right? Like like that's not, you're not comparing those two, are you?
No, no. I mean,
Or
I mean,
the
Henry.
Pope even.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
understand the question.
Or the Pope even, like the Pope. We're not saying that they are of the same moral fiber as Abraham was when he brought out his firstborn to be
Yeah, I
sacrificed.
suppose he followed the logic of his belief. I mean, if he believed that the most powerful God conceivable would be morally perfect, and he well, that was what God, the Abrahamic God, was meant to be. So he I guess a perfectly moral God would abolish human sacrifice, because that was the story of Abraham and
Right,
Isaac.
right,
Yeah.
right,
And I guess, that would appeal to people, right? It's like, not only is God, omnipotent, omniscient, supreme and eternal, he's also, all forgiving and, omnibenevolent and morally perfect. And he would, make sure that good is rewarded and evil punished in this life or the next,
right. Yeah.
which I guess is a very appealing narrative.
Right. Yeah. It appealed us for hundreds of years before the modern age. Yeah, certainly.
Well, people still want to believe in it. I mean, that is its power. And, you know, I don't know if you've heard of Yuval Harari, but basically
Indeed, yes, yes. I've read his books.
oh, you have. So
Yes,
you will do you remember him saying that basically people are capable, well, humanity is capable of making up stories and then believing in them, and um, living their lives as if it were true, or dedicating
right.
their lives
Yeah,
to
yeah,
making it come true.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I do agree with that, but to me, these are more than just stories. But that's again a religious perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, these stories are, I think they have psychological depth. So you can't, that's why we discuss them even now. Like, oh, who we're going to blame in the story of Adam and Eve?
Right.
When men and women, throw sling mud at each other for being, treacherous and whatever.
Right. Right.
Do you
Indeed.
have a favorite Hindu story of the Hindu gods, Annapurna?
I do actually. Yeah.
Would you like to
I
share
have
one?
a few. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell one of them. So it has to do with the incarnation of God. Um, and like as Vincent mentioned, these are not God. And in fullness, it's just a part of, right, that comes to Earth to fulfill a certain purpose. And the story is very similar to the story of the birth of Jesus in the Bible, I think. But at the time, the earth was ruled by a demon king. And I want to say that currently, according to the Puranas, the same place the story comes from, we're in the rule of a demon right now. And the demon name is Kali. That's why they call it the Kali Yuga. Yuga meaning age.
Hmm.
Kali is the name of the demon, and it's a demon of illusion, delusion, and takes delight in human confusion, essentially. So the Hinduism says that's why humanity's like the earth is so effed. Is Kali is ruling, and the reason he's ruling is because there's a decay in human values and consciousness. So anyway, ages before, a demon king rules the earth, and his son is born, and he starts, worshiping God. So, what this demon does is, basically he desecrates every temple around and rebuilds it in his own image, and he's declared himself God, and he's his only son, his heir, grows up to be an ascetic devotee of God. So years pass, and then one day, yeah, it's not the story of the birth of Jesus. I'm sorry, it's not similar. But anyway, years pass, and one day, the son grows up, and the demon rules. It's not just the earth, but his rules now extending to the levels or the realms below earth, and some above earth as well. So there's a lot of destruction, going on, and just like this sacrifice type of atmosphere. He takes the lives of a lot of innocent people, children, takes women, by his fancy. And one day his son is grown up, maybe 11 or 12, and he comes into his father's courtroom with his prayer beads. And he's praying, and the father gets enraged. I'm God here. How dare you? I'm God here. How dare you pray to another but me? And the son says, but God is omnipresent. He's everywhere. And the king starts making fun, like, oh, everywhere. Where is he? Is he in this pillar over here? And he starts to take his mace, and it's a demon king, right? So like a large stature, and he breaks apart a golden pillar in his own palace, and starts mocking, like, oh, is your God here? Let me see. And at that moment, the incarnation of God steps forth. So the backstory of the demon king is that he has a boon. That's why he's so confident. He's so overconfident that he cannot be killed either by man or by beast. He cannot be killed either in day or night, and he cannot be killed with any weapon. Um, and he did this, he obtained this boon because in his life before becoming a crazy king, he was austere. He was performing austerities. And the lesson is that God shines equally upon demon and human and deity alike. It's everybody gets a chance. And he used his chance to ask for immortality, but immortality is against the rules of the universe. So that cannot be granted. So the next best thing is, do not let me be killed by man or beast. Do not let me be killed either in day or night. I cannot be killed with any weapon. And also, he said, I cannot be killed inside or outside my palace. So he was trying to cover his bases. So the incarnation of God pops out of the pillar, and it's half lion and a half human. So it has a human body and the head of a lion with very, very long claws. So yeah, he springs forth and upon the demon, takes him to the place right in the middle. So it's not inside. And I guess you're a lawyer, so you'll understand this. But the not inside and not outside the palace, but in the middle, on the threshold.
upon the threshold. And the timing is neither day nor night, it's twilight. And he has no weapon. He uses his claws to tear open the chest of the demon, take out the heart. And I think he eats the heart. He eats, and that's the end of him. So that's
That's a
the
great
story.
story for a lawyer.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought so.
Great. I enjoyed that. Thank you, Annapurna.
Sure thing. You're welcome. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So I do have to leave,
Okay.
Vincent. Okay. If you, I have 10 more minutes until I absolutely have to leave. So if you'd like to wrap up or cover any holes we've left in the conversation.
No, because we moved on to a different subject, but yeah, you were talking about Pradla, right? Pradla?
Prahalad. But the
Prahalad.
incarnation, so the incarnation in that case is the half lion, half human, Narasimha. That's the name of the incarnation of the 10 of Vishnu.
Yes. Yeah, Prahalad. You were telling the story of Prahalad. Holy. This holiday of Holi.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, holy. I mean, I remember all these things, and when I was Hindu, I really liked the stories, the gods, I read lots of Samhita and epic and Purana and that kind of thing. But no, I never got into all this Vedanta and yoga and Tantra, and um, so I kind of did myself a little bit of a disservice by not understanding what I was really involved in.
Have you ever been to India?
Yes, for a month.
Whereabouts? Rishikesh is my guess, but I may be wrong.
Everywhere. I went north to south, east to west. I was in like 12 states or something like that.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I'm sure you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was very good. At the time I was a devout Hindu, so I did enjoy it. So I thought I was a devout Hindu. Um, so I did enjoy it. And there's lots of things I like about Hinduism. I like the temples, I like Murti Puja, I like the stories. Um, those kinds of things that I still enjoy, and I think they have something useful to learn from them.
Yeah, the stories for me are very important. They're examples. This is how we teach our children morality. And I want to just give an anecdote. The other half of the story is Prahalad. So I think Prahalad, if I'm not mistaken, is an incarnation of Shiva. So he's come as a child to a demon. What is the implication of that? Like one of the Trinity comes as a child of a demon, that a child of a demon can come above his quote unquote like birth nature. And Prahlad he's so innocent. He's so innocent that he's constantly protected by his fate. So before this final showdown, before God quote unquote shows up, there's many times that the father tries to kill the son. The demon king tries to kill his son when he's an infant multiple times. And the festival of Holi you brought up is a harvest festival, but is dedicated to the time that he failed to kill Prahlad for the last time. So the demon king has a sister who has a power of fire, so she can sit in fire and she will not burn. And he instructs her to sit with his son upon fire, and so that he would burn and she would remain unburned. And the what happens is the opposite. So the fire doesn't harm him, but instead she burns to a crisp. And so every year in February, March, during the time that spring is coming, people burn the fire to burn off all like the evil in their life, and they celebrate Holi the next day, throwing color. But yeah, so the innocence and protection of prayer is there in that story. the way a demon meets his match, and then Claire was talking about the lawyer as a lawyer, like the implications of like how like to get through a bullet quote unquote bulletproof like case or whatever. But it's on many levels, and it's a millennial cultural heritage as well, so that transmits through the stories. And there's theater involved. A lot of these stories are enacted in the form of theater in India, every year. And the way it's approached is that you channel the deity or whatever it is that you're playing upon the stage. So that's the reverence given to these stories and the lessons learned from them. But thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Blessings, Claire.
Take care, Annapurna.
Take care, Vincent. And bye. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.
All right. So I know that. Well, I mean, I wanted something. I don't know. I'm still not 100% clear on what Vedanta is, or I don't know if you have to meditate to realize it, or I don't know. I don't know what you have to do in order to really understand this. I mean, okay, it's
You
non-duality.
want your mumbo jumbo too, Vincent. Just admit it.
Say I want mumbo jumbo. I said I want to learn. It's not. Well, I don't know. You know, it's non-duality, and it it wasn't necessarily mumbo jumbo, but I don't know what you have to do to understand this. I have the book.
There's nothing to understand. It's just that people want a mumbo jumbo.
No, it's mumbo
It's universal. And it's like,
jumbo.
oh, you're given the rules. It's like, no, it's too easy. It's too hard. It's too,
Kabbalah.
ooh,
Do you
it's
think
the rules.
do you
And then
think
you don't
Kabbalah?
have any mumbo jumbo.
Do you think Kabbalah is mumbo jumbo?
Yes.
You think
Okay,
Kabbalah?
okay. I mean, I did do a few Kabbalah classes, okay, at beginner level, but it's sort of like, it's all about uh, the bread of shame and, wanting to give something back and, not being too reactive, and, taking control of your emotions. And, it's basically telling you not to be so bloody egotistical and upsetting yourself through feelings of rage and anger and envy. And, it's just how to calm yourself down and, be spiritual, right? And think, oh, what is wisdom? What is intellect? What is, it slows things right down. And it's like, yeah, sometimes people need to know what the real meaning of words. Because a lot of people tend not to care. Uneducated people just like to grab words that sound powerful and use it to serve their purposes. And the crudest kind is insults and lies and slander and libel. And I guess there was a time when I thought, oh, I kind of like all this mumbo jumbo and yes and no and stuff like that. But what I think it stops you from doing is well, it confuses you, right? I mean, if everything is yes and no, you're not going to be sure of your ground, and then you hesitate. Okay. Oh, Vincent, I can't hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can. You just dropped out.
I'm going to end the stream because I have a phone call.
Okay, thanks for having me. Thank you for an enjoyable stream.
Okay, talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye.